sporting events. For more info, call us at 1784-529-8518 or 1784-534-3900.
Test 1, 2, 3. Okay.
I'm a champion.
Catch the fever, the track and field fever at the St. Vincent Community College. Heating up from March 22nd with the Invitational Road Relay from the Technical College around the Vigi Highway to Glen and back to the Technical College. Then on March 27th, it's Heats Day. Who will qualify for the track and field finals on Wednesday, April 5th at the Sir Vincent Beach National Stadium? Are you a champion? Champion. Come see the champions, or better yet, come and be a champion. As the SVG Community College, track and field fever flows through our veins. Remember, March 22nd is the road relay. March 27th, it's Heats Day. And April 5th is the big track and field final.
Lviv Green. That healthy drink is now available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Here are just a few reviews. It is antioxidant enriched. It promotes cleansing of the digestive tract, contributes to liver, kidney, and heart health, and contains cardioprotective properties. For more information on Lviv Green, call 529-5339. That's 529-5339.
Have you tried SVG's finest wines? From Dave Roots. Dave Roots offers Noonie wine, tamarind wine, obis, and wines from fruits and herbs. 10% alcohol by volume. So when you're looking for the finest local wines, look for Dave Roots. Contact them at 784-593-1564 for more information or to order.
Cecil Brown, Vincentian UK-based author of the book Cassipi Caribbean PI, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Mysteries, and the regional winner in the Commonwealth Short Story Prize 2022. And here is an excerpt from Cassipi. I should be at home, writing up my reports on a blessed Sunday. But where am I instead? Settling domestic disputes? Up! Let me show you what I do to those who make me miss my Sunday meal. Cassipi is available online.
Beauty and the Bag, the official store for all your handbag needs. With our efficient prices, no one else can beat. Offering you a wide range of tote bags, satchels, clutch purses, and so much more. Follow us on Instagram, The Bag Connection 2023, or call us at 434-8310. Beauty and the Bag, adding the sexy to your outfit.
Looking for a place to relax with natural cool breeze and friendly surroundings? Then check the Bay Hill Tree Bar, located at Bay Hill Cane Garden. We have everything a bar will have. We also sell 20 pounds of cooking gas at the Bay Hill Tree Bar.
The St. George's Cathedral Fundraising Committee presents an afternoon tea party of elegance with a cup of tea, great minds share great thoughts. It's on Sunday, April 16th, 2023, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Price $25. A hat parade forms part of the entertainment package at the Cathedral Car Park, Sunday, April 16th, 2023.
Sly and UMS Production presents Heat in the Place. Heat in the Place. Saturday, June 3rd, 2023 at 30 Gordon McKay Road, North York, M9N 2V6, Toronto. Come in to heat up the place. Get ready for two big legendary bands, Burning Flames and Black Sand. Black Sand. Burning Flames meets Black Sand. Doors open from 9 p.m. Showtime 11 p.m. sharp. Don't miss Heat in the Place featuring Burning Flames and Black Sand. Saturday, June 3rd is going to be a movie. Watch out, crowd. Party people.
Circling the globe, circling the nation. This is Build a Nation. Build a Nation. Build a Nation. The biggest conversation on this side of the globe. I am Dr. Doris Charles, your hostess. Why not join us on Mondays at 3:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. and on Thursdays at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for your bi-weekly editions of Build a Nation. If you need to hear conversations on current happenings and more, then invite a friend and tune in to www.bayhillnews.com. gmail.com. Get in touch again at 1-784-529-8518 or email us at beldonation@gmail.com. Praise Donald Charles, and indeed I am extending a very special welcome to you this evening. And of course, call somebody, tell somebody, to call somebody else, anybody, and let them come and let's interact this evening on the topic explaining the court order, and that court order, the most recent one being that of Madame Justice Esco Henry, and of course, you know, the fiasco that followed thereafter. This evening, of course, our guiding text is from Micah chapter 6 and verse 8. He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. So indeed, greetings and salutations and happy birthday to all of you who are celebrating your birthdays. And of course, we come to you with at least three major sponsors this evening. www.bayhillnews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. The number to call us is 1-784-529-8518 or text us at 1-784-491-3923 or write to us at beldonation@gmail.com. St. Vincent's and the Grenadines' finest wines that are produced by Dave Roots. And for more information, please call them at 1-784-593-1564. And of course, Pesco Vegetarian, a restaurant with a difference. We do your orders, we supply, I should say, your orders Mondays to Thursdays from 10 to 4 and on Fridays from 10 to midday. So place your orders for all your vegetarian needs. You have extra needs, just food needs, that is, you just call us at 1-784-491-3923 to place your orders. With us this evening, as usual, is my co-host, Mr. Gerard Williams, and very special guest this evening is Mr. Rohan Walter Scott. You have heard him before, but he is on this evening. So I ask both gentlemen to greet us, please, and welcome to this evening's program. So, Mr. Williams, you could take the first shot.
I'll let the special guest. He's special, so we let him go first.
Okay, then, all right. All right, Mr. Walter Scott, go right ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Gerald. Good afternoon, Doctor. And I
Good
received this
afternoon.
specialness. Yes, so good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you may be, under the hearing of our voices. And we welcome you again this afternoon, evening, morning to our program again as we continue to examine life as it unfolds in St. Vincent and Grenadines and across the wider Caribbean region. Because issues that affect individual states tend to have a rippling effect. So we're not just discussing these in isolation. They actually impact our CARICOM OECS brothers and sisters and our friends and citizens across the diaspora. So thanks to our sponsors, our few sponsors, Pesco, Cocoa Tea, and the other one I don't recall right now. But, yeah, thank you again for being with us. And we look forward to a fruitful discussion. And we want today to really make an appeal to the conscience and to the ethical position of our people. We want to awaken their consciousness. We want our conversation to really dig deep into the recesses of the mind and for you to think differently about who you are as a Vincentian, who you are as a person. Examine your fundamental rights and freedom that they have been given to you by your creator, and they cannot and should not be infringed by any man. And you and us as people should not cede our rights and give up our rights to anyone for any reason. They are fundamental, our rights and freedom given to our creator. So we want those issues to really resonate with you this afternoon. Think deep about them and allow them to change the course of your mentality, change your mindset, change your paradigm, change your thinking system, just change your views about who you are as a citizen, that you are very important, you are significant in the process. You have the say and you have the power. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Williams.
You see, Dr. Charles, good afternoon. And thanks to Bail News Network and our sponsors. Just really adding to what our special guest, Mr. Walter, said. I don't think I need to say much because I like how you introduce him as our special guest, because what he just said, you have covered everything what the program should be about. So all I'm just going to add to our special guest, what he just said, is I'm just trying to encourage our listeners, especially the natives of St. Vincent or nationals of St. Vincent. Let's take up the phone. Let's sound our voice, because Brother Walters have actually, he just done an excellent introduction. So it's no point of me repeating it because a lot of it be more repetition. So I just want to say thanks to him. And I know our listeners do utilize the text and the emails, but the phone tend to start to get a bit of cobweb. So let's take up the phone, let our voice sound. And as Brother Walter said, this is our fundamental right, and no man should actually dictate or control what we put into our body or dictate our way of life. We do respect the rule of law, but sometimes some of these laws are questionable, and this is what we are doing to ensure that our fundamental rights are not eroded by ego, by dictatorship, or authoritarianism. Thank you very much.
So the number to call us folks is 1784-529-8518. I greet the listenership all over the world, especially those persons who have called in previously from the United Kingdom, the United States, and elsewhere. Some persons would call or would text us. We thank you very much. But as Mr. Williams has said, I join with him in saying, call, you can call. That's all right. Because St. Vincent of getting to an understanding that, we are not afraid. As Itana says, we're not afraid of anyone. And when we stand in solidarity one with the other, them have to run. Them have to run. Yeah, so it's always a pleasure for me to actually sit and talk with you. And again, we thank our sponsors for being on board with us. So, there is a little section I normally do. It's called of this and that. And there is a biblical principle and a targeting number of us in our communities, in our societies, in our little cubby holes, sitting down with a glass of your shoes or something, or even listening to me on your radio driving home. Prayer of faith without works is dead. And I pick up something from someone called Edward Abbey. He was saying this: sentiment without action ruin the soul. I put both of them together and I realized one is reflective of the other. Prayer or faith without works is basically dead. And when we say something, sentiments without action, it definitely can ruin our soul. And I'm one of those persons by experience. My lived experiences have told me that after 30 years, I have had to face the reality of who I am and what I have become and make certain decisions in a positive direction. And I am thankful for that. When you make a decision, don't turn back. Make sure you make up your mind. And in my making up of my mind, in due course, I came to realize this, that the voices of the people around me say to me that I must help them. In 2009, I was approached first in terms of, stimulating my political something inside of me to say, okay, turn your eyes out around the persons within your communities and see what they're saying and listen to the politics of the day. And at that time, I wasn't conscious enough, politically conscious enough. And I eventually recognized that in the process of time, because some of us are waking up slowly, some are awake and decide, well, they're not going to do much because they throw up their hands in the air and say, well, I'm not even going to do nothing. Everything I'm gone bad. I'm gone so bad. Really think we could make any impact. Yes, you can. I said, together we can. Yes, you can. Together we can. I want to say to us to own our country. St. Vincent and the Grenadines belong to us, all of us. And we are going to be part of this civilization, this Caribbean Vincentian civilization, until our bodies, till God says, that's it, no more. Or sometimes some of us may succumb to violence at the hands or death at the hands of a partner or someone else. But I'm saying to you, as long as life is in your body, you can effect change. Mr. Williams and Mr. Walter Scott, we have to relearn ourselves. Listeners, we have to relearn ourselves and our systems. I don't know if you gentlemen would agree with me, but here is a bird's eye view of what I am seeing. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as a nation state, as a physical landmass, we've got to appreciate our historical past. around us, when we look, we have in St. Vincent, and within the diaspora, we have organizations, we have a sense of community, we have industries, we have religious
Hello, good
organizations,
Hi, sorry, Dr.
and so
Charles.
on. Yes, please.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
There's this loud, annoying song, banging song coming from I don't know whose background or phone.
Right, I am hearing that as well, but I'm not
Oh,
sure exactly.
Are you hearing
Yes,
it as
but I
well?
press on. Yes,
Yeah,
I
no,
press
it's
on
cool.
nonetheless. Yes, I press on. Maybe there is a connect or disconnect someplace, but we press on. And I'm sure in
Okay.
time, the technical personnel behind the scenes would, assist with getting rid of that sound. If not, we press on. And so around us locally, we have in St. Vincent, within the diaspora, we have organizations, we have a sense of community, we have industries, we have religious organizations, we have a political environment or political system. We have a social environment, social system, indigenous factors, and religious factors within those indigenous factors, within the indigenous environment. We have a task environment that says it's not limited to marketing, industry trends, technical innovations, and ongoing changes within the larger corporate environment. And largely, we are impacted by a technological environment. But then we are mostly consumer based. So you won't find us using the technology to create something, but rather we will be consuming whatever else the United States or any other external agency or country or organization outside of St. Vincent will sell to us. And so we must ask ourselves, what do we keep? Or what do we drop? Not everything is bad. Some of it is good. So we now would have to recreate our own reality. Outside of St. Vincent, we have the diaspora. We have a diplomatic community. We have organizations. They have a sense of their community. There's a connection between our homeland and the various locations of our diaspora communities at times. There's affiliation and membership to regional and international organizations. There is the impact of external political environment and social environment and cultural environment and religious influences and the technological environment. What do we do as a people? How do we refocus to say, okay, we have a St. Vincent Grenadines to build? Some of those issues are key when it comes to creating our own reality and our own political consciousness, our own religious sphere of existence. So those are some of the things that I was pondering on. Any comments at all that you may want to throw in, even if it is a line or two? Yes? Anyone? Okay. So it seems as if I'm not getting any juice there as yet. Okay, Mr. Scott, Walter Scott.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Right. As you spoke, I'm thinking about, holistic development and strategic development and the extent to which we have undergone such aspect in that our building process, looking at energy, looking at agriculture, looking at tourism, looking at education, healthcare, agro-processing, building the private sector, having strong private sector public agreements and partnerships, having MOUs worked out between us and international agencies for all sorts of cooperation on various levels, energy, agro processing, and you have to always repeat that agriculture, high-tech agriculture, looking at our sustainable growth plan for the next, say, 50 years. I'm looking at here our Customs Control and Management Act number 14 of 1999. That's an old act that needs to be revised and updated. And I mean, it's and most of our laws, like most of our legislation actually needs to be revised and updated to meet current trend in technology and science and business. I'm not sure when last the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines undergo a law revision process and to revise the laws and update the laws to bring them in line with a policy position that takes the country in a certain direction. You know, policy drives legislation, and legislation, of course, will chart a course for a nation into a developmental position. And so the courts and the parliament and the cabinet, they're not just there to pass the laws to keep the people in check and deny people their fundamental rights and freedom. They're there to build a nation for productivity. And as you mentioned, Dr. Charles, to remove us from a consumer-based people to producers. Because as Sir Kid Dwight Venner said years ago, when you eat a banana, you take the skin and you throw it away. So you sell that banana to the UK, you sell it to Russia, or you sell it to your trading partners. There's a definite beginning and end to that product. When you get into creative industries, you have property that lasts generations. You have intellectual property. You have ownership. You have creative works of arts that those things can then be transferred to future generation, and you have income streams flowing continuously from those things. So then there needs to be a merging of the sector, a merging of the business sectors in St. Vincent and Grenadines, attacked and addressed from all angles, so that it is not income flowing from just one stream. And you have this thing built out over a period of time. So you send your children to specialty schools and have them learn specialty areas in technology, developing apps and programs and writing programs and those kind of stuff. I don't know if those discussions are being had, if conversations like that is taking place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But what you just said, just trigger those thoughts, the extent to which we need to move from a consumer-based people to one of producers. And this is something that's applicable not just to St. Vincent and Grenadines, but the wider Caribbean region. I know some companies, some countries are more advanced than others, but we have to take our people to the next level of productivity, and especially in STEMs, science, technology, engineering, and those areas. It is a must. It behooves us to get our children thinking creative instead of just constantly using the internet and playing games and so on. How can you write an app? How can you develop a program? How can you write a software? It's yeah. I mean, I was reading something just this week and about blockchain and so on, and the extent to which larger countries have gone way in advance. I'm not saying we should be following everything that we see and developing, but the trends are there, and we cannot be backward and lagging behind in every sector of our society. It takes so hard to catch up. So big time legislation that needs to be put for development needs to be passed, enacted for developing St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Okay.
So yeah. So I'll just pause it now. Okay.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, there is a thing you always say, and that is about our education system. Yes, there's some words that were thrown around during the past 15, 20 years, education revolution. But Mr. Williams, you are harping on the fact that there needs to be a pro-African aspect of our education. You want to talk about that just briefly?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Charles. Mr. Walters, I always enjoy joining the platform with you. As always, you always, well, as I always say, we all bring different things to the table, and I think you have sung the alarm very heavy. Yeah, Dr. Charles, before I go into that, and something that you always mention, and I think we all have actually mentioned at some point, is also food security. Because before we even get to app and all these things, every technician, every politician, just think about whatever sector you assign yourself to. We all have to eat. And this is when we can even abstain from harnessing gold and the natural resources. We can fast for a couple of days, but we can't fast for life. So this is something that we are blessed with. And I think I would like to add to Brother Walters is we have to incorporate agriculture in our despite the entrepreneurial mindset, we need to, because it's no point of having all this technical knowledge and you don't know how to feed yourself. So who feed you control you. And as a small nation, island nation, we are actually in a position to be able to actually generate in terms of a major part of our food security. So this is something I would just like to add to Brother Walter's education aspect, where he talked about trying to catch up with the rest. So I would like to add that bit. Come back to what you're saying, Dr. Charles. What I've noticed that we avoid as a people, we are disconnected from ourselves. So knowledge of self is just like human suicide. And we are in such a dire state. You have the Chinese, they have a nation or identity that they can connect with. The European, who are basically the rulers or controllers of this world. The Indians, who are now actually impacting the platform again because they've always been influential. And the Asian, who is more or less considered like almost the first world country, because America is considered the first world, but the Asians are right up there. Now, the Africans, we are in a very confusing state, because one of our biggest problems we have as Africans, we have been in the Caribbean as a direct impact of transatlantic slavery. And Africa within itself is divided into 52 states. Now, all these different African states, they identify themselves as a true nationalism. So say, for example, if we decide to attach ourselves to nationalism, like your Ghanaian, your Tanzanian, the Gambian, where does the Vincentian connect with Africa? So outside of Africa, besides you have 52 states, you have the Afro-Caribbean, which is not an identity in Africa. Then you have Afro-American, which is not an identity in Africa. So where is our identity? So even on the continent, we have a huge divide. And outside of the continent, we don't really have an identity. And what I've even noticed is that our people, we don't even want to connect with Africa. And when you look at Africa, Dr. Charles, I know I'm going to touch you a bit now. When we look at African home and abroad, one of our biggest problems is politics, religion, poverty, misinformation. So our plight is it's not simplistic. And if we, as much as we want food security, we need to have an identity, because the entire world, for their agricultural benefit, Africa is a country is a continent that provides a food security for people. Natural resources, Africa is the continent that provide that. Architectural design. If we go deep, Africa is the continent that provide that. You're talking about archaeology discovery. Africa is the continent that provide that to the world. We're talking about the human existence. Africa is the continent that provide that. And this biblical part of things, the River Nile, they're in Africa. Sudan in the Bible, they're in Africa. Ethiopia in Africa. Egypt in Africa. How did we end up with a white Jesus? And you see, I'm touching some very deep note, and I know this will going to upset the status quo, but everything that we know has been given to us by the invaders. The surname that you have, Brother Walters, myself, Williams, Dr. Charles, these are all European names. And even these names, as much as we say we are independent, we don't want to relinquish these names. And these names that we are carrying around as not even African name. They were names that was actually given to us, which denote ownership. So our situation as African outside of Africa is very complex. And we'll have to charter a way how to begin, but our existence has to be not only as an island, but we have to charter a way that must reconnect us with our true identity as Africans. And also Africa as a whole, I know we are moving into a single market, a single language, because we are trying to make Swahili the continent language that is universal among the continent. We're trying to arrange a one currency. But we have to align ourselves with Africa. We cannot isolate ourselves as a single island state and expect that we can exist. It's just like an ordinary boxer is going into a ring with Mike Tyson or George Foreman, these professional boxers. And that is exactly what we are doing, is committing political suicide. We are committing industrial suicide. We are committing educational suicide. So our situation is so complex. So what we need to do is to chart a way how to begin. So we can't expect to exist as a people, as an island, because we are Africans. So why is it that I don't know of any leaders outside of Africa who have a large, the majority of the populations are African, but why aren't we identified with our Africanness? But then you'll find an American who lives in St. Vincent, but he's make sure that he connect with America. You find a Europeans who live in St. Vincent, but he will make sure he connect. So why are we still having this disconnect? And that is the question I want to ask.
Okay. I am scanning through my notes here and realize that there indeed was a statement by the chairman of the Conference of Head of State and Government of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, His Excellency Chandrika Santokhi, President of the Republic of Suriname. And to mark CARICOM Africa Day, I don't know if you have heard of that, the 7th of September last year, and again this year it will be marked on the 7th of September 2023. But way back then, there was a theme. So the first CARICOM Africa Summit was held virtually in September last year. That's what they were saying on, under the theme, Unity Across Continents and Oceans, Opportunity for Deepening Integration. And so drawing from that, the chairman was saying, the president of the Republic of Suriname, Santokhi, was saying that definitely that served to give impetus to our relationship. And I know that there are times there are a lot of rhetoric that's thrown around the place, but he is saying that just the evidence of today's celebration, meaning in September 2022 as CARICOM Africa Day, it was one of the historic decisions that was made by that summit. I am hoping that we will go beyond words, and as you say, to continue to create a unity across continents and oceans, and to provide real and meaningful and lasting and sustainable opportunities for deepening integration. Okay, so I thank you for raising that issue and for reminding me that I should pull that out of my note. I also want to add, calling for justice for those whose lives have been cut short through violence and crime, justice for relatives of my best friend and mother of 2 children. She was a friend to many. She is Sharma Adams Thomas. Justice for all those who have been killed. I'm also calling for an end to violence generally, calling an end to the raping of our young men and young women, raping of the girl child. And let me sound the warning to the politicians of today, the politicians of tomorrow, that once I am in a position to assist, meaning that once I am alive and well, and any politician that is caught, that is found to be part of the process of raping our young boys and our young girls in this nation of ours, I will continue to call upon the authorities and do everything in my power to jail them, because they have no right to destroy our young apple, to destroy our young boys and girls, the future of our nation. Politicians, I'm calling on you, and you know who you are. You have been caught. Some of you have not been prosecuted because you have challenged the system and have used your influence to silence those who could have stood up to you. I am saying you have children. You know who you are. You have children, and you wouldn't want your children to succumb to these, to these rapists and these vile perpetrators. I mean, come on. I remember standing up on behalf of some politicians who said they will never do that. I want to say this, that it was the information I had at the time to say that these persons were clean and above board and they will never do this. But the more I live, the more I interact with people all over the world, is the more I realize that right here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there are some issues that are dark and deep. And I am issuing a warning that once our boys and girls are brave enough to stand up in a court of law, I will stand with them and will assist with making sure that those who have caused great harm to our nation's children and to our men and women, that they be brought to justice. No one, not even Doris Deborah Williams Frederick Charles, is above the law. No one is above the law. Exploitation of our young and the not so young, our boys and girls, those who are poor, especially from poor homes, many of them go and they seek help and they are in need. That exploitation must stop with God's help. And I want to read this little portion here from Exodus chapter 22 to 27. Don't mistreat widows or orphans. If you do and they cry out to me, you can be sure I'll take them most seriously. I'll show my anger and come raging among you with the sword, and your wives will end up widows and your children orphans. If you lend money to my people, any of the down and out among you, don't come down hard on them and gouge them with interest. If you take your neighbor's coat as security, give it back before nightfall. It may be your neighbor's only covering. What else does the person have to sleep in? And if I hear the neighbor crying out from the cold, I'll step in. I am compassionate. And sometimes the wheels of justice, God's justice, grind slowly. But surely, my people, surely it grinds. I'm warning our politicians to lay off, take your hands off those who you should be protecting. I have information that has come to me from men and women in this country that have been disadvantaged And many politicians know who they are, and we are asking you to stop. Why is it you have not been prosecuted? For fear among those who you have touched. And that is wrong. One of these days, integrity legislation that was spoken of, we have a draft, Mr. Williams and Mr. Walter Scott. We have a draft in 2004, I think it was. In 2006, thereabout, between 2004 2006, even the newspapers, I read an article where the newspapers, the Searchlight newspaper was calling again for the revision of the resurrection of the Integrity Commission and the integrity legislation. We have copies available. The next government in this country must enact integrity legislation for public officers. That is what I'm calling for. Yeah, but okay, so before we get any further, let me just pause here for a commercial pause and to say that we come to you this evening with the compliments of BayHillNews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. The number to call us is 1-784-529-8518 or 1-784-491-3923 or write to us at belldnation@gmail.com. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines' finest wines produced by Dave Roots. For more information, please call 1-784-593-1564. And of course, Pesco Vegetarian. You place your orders through us, please, 1-784-491-3923. Place your orders for your pescatarian meals and your eggless banana bread, fish burgers, and you name it. Yes, please. So here we are today in the shadows of the recent, how would you say, picket. There was a picket of the financial complex in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There was also a picket of the of Parliament, the building, while Parliament was sitting just most recently. And that's Monday and Tuesday of this week. And we are here today, Thursday. Yeah, we have had the opportunity to look at the court order in the disposition. We have read some of it. But what hit me recently is that some of those persons on the front lines, they were just throwing up their hands in the air and crying because there was a signal at that time about an appeal that was going to be mounted against the ruling of Justice, Madam Justice Esther Henry. I salute the judge, and I will continue to salute the judge because there are some words that she used: unconstitutional and ultra-violent, unlawful and disproportionate, unlawful, procedurally improper and void, and constitutes a breach of natural justice, contravenes Section 88 of the Constitution. It's unlawful, procedurally improper, and void. On every rung of the ladder, so to speak, the proverbial ladder, and every rung, the actions of the Honorable Prime Minister of this country were thrown out. On every ground, he was shut down. Yet he said that his conscience is clear. Most of us would have seen the API news item. Okay, hello? Is someone trying to come in? Hello? Okay. Yeah, so most of us would have seen the news item. And Vincentians are somehow not, they didn't quite get it. What is it that we have won? Because I maintain we have won. So what is it? Was it that, had the issue with the injection, or was it the issue of the actions of the current administration? What is it that we have won? So I want us to look at, look at that. But before we get there, what is the Constitution? The Constitution is a body of fundamental principles or established precedents according to which the state, that is St. Vincent and the Grenadines here, or other organization is acknowledged to be governed. So yeah, and so that is the Constitution. That is what the Constitution is all about. We have it's 160 pages, I think, the last document I have had. So let's talk, gentlemen. What exactly was the issue at hand? Because some people still didn't get it. So let's see if we could break it up for grandmother who is sitting up yonder in the back up there.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm gonna start by reading what was circulated, a statement by the good Prime Minister. The Agency for Public Information, dated the 20th of March 2023. My conscience is clear. PM Gonsalves. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has insisted that his administration acted within the ambits of the law or constitution and in the interest of protecting the health of all Vincentians with respect to the deadly COVID-19 virus. I'll pause there. So he said he's insisting that his government acted within the ambits of the law. I find that to be unique in the sense that there was no law governing COVID-19, how COVID-19 and the pandemic is to be dealt with. That law is not in the Constitution. So a special ambulatory piece of legislation, a special law was enacted to deal with that. So it was a law was created to fix what seemed to have been a problem. The pandemic, like the common cold that we all get, that comes and goes and blows with the wind. It is transmitted. We don't know how. The science was still out there. The science is still out there. And all the reports that we are hearing now are indicating that governments around the world who took these measures, the measures were too high-handed. As a matter of fact, cases have been opened right around the globe, in the UK, in the US, and persons have been compensated, suffered as a result of being injured as a result of vaccination. So the notion that the state intervened to protect the health of the nation by embarking and identifying and targeting a special group of people, how could that be? How could that be fair? How could that be just? And how could that be reasonable? How could he pass a law that punished a very small section of your society, and then say you're justified and you're acting within the scope of the law? That's discriminatory. The measures were discriminatory, and the judge ruled in every limb, every aspect of the case, discriminatory, disproportionate, illegal, void, unconstitutional. And then you're going to say that you act within the public's interest and you act constitutionally?
You mean he has lied again to the nation? I say lied again.
Precisely.
Because I was on the road when someone handed me a mic or a horn, and they started talking and so on. And then I said the effect of what he was about to do would, of course, been unconstitutional. What to that effect that I did say. And people branded me as being delusional and say it's not true. But here it is, that it is true. I want this nation to understand something. That we must read carefully and listen carefully to what the Honorable Prime Minister is saying. And Honorable Prime Minister, I am saying to you, you are old enough, you are supposed to be learned enough to tell us the truth and to stop lying to us. We went to school. Some of us went to plenty schools, and some of us, even before you go to school, you have common sense. So you cannot go ahead and say things like this and expect us to accept it. You have lied, Prime Minister. Stop lying.
Can I come in here, please?
Because that's what you just said. It is not true.
Can I come in here, please?
Read over the part again, give me Mr. Walters. Because I could take back my words, if I'm convinced that, because I am not the person who say, well, okay, there is righteous. No, sir. I'm human, subject to error. And if I do something wrong, I will stand up and say, I beg your pardon. But I read that again, let me hear, Mr. Walters.
So this is the first paragraph.
Can I come in here before you continue?
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has insisted that his administration acted within the ambits of the law / constitution. So is it the ambit of the COVID-19 law or the ambit of the constitution, or both? So we have to say, because the COVID-19 regulations and laws were created specifically to deal with this issue. So he's saying he acted within the confines and the ambit of those laws and regulations and orders, and he also acted within the ambit and scope of the Constitution, period.
Mm-hmm.
Period. In every sense. Mm-hmm. That's what he's saying. And he did so in the interest of protecting the health of all Vincentians with respect to the deadly COVID-19. But that is a fundamental error in statement. It is flawed.
That's right.
Because it was just a small percentage. It's almost like de minimis, a minus one or negative 5, half, whatever mathematical equation we can attach it. But it's a very, to do a percentage ratio against the population of St. Vincent is like nothing. It's in the minus.
Yeah.
The persons who are affected, and he's saying he took that decision in the interest of the public. That means St. Vincent, mainland St. Vincent, Mustique, Bequia, Myro, Canouan, Union Island, and every inhabited island that in the Grenadine chain.
Mm-hmm.
He did that. So the teachers that he sent home, he did that to protect every Vincentian.
No,
that's what he's saying.
Hogwash. That's not true. Prime Minister, listen, I know you're taping me. Honorable Prime Minister, stop telling lies. Make it as simple as possible for us to understand that you are the same person we voted for as our greatest sovereign. We are of largely African descent here on St. Vincent and Grenadines, but we are not idiots. We understand what you are saying. Stop lying. Then you went on in paragraph 2 of the same Agency for Public Information, and you say, in an exclusive interview with the Agency for Public Information on March 20th, Dr. Gonsalves said the COVID-19 vaccination drive was imperative in the face of a public health emergency, and the government, quote unquote, did what was reasonably required in the interest of public health. Dr. Gonsalves, the manner in which you went, I deal with the manner, just the manner. The judge said that you have what? You have done so unlawfully. You have done so unconstitutionally. It was outside of your powers so to do, ultra vires, disproportionate, and tainted with procedural impropriety. How else can you, Dr. Gonsalves, be barefaced enough, bold enough to come to this honorable nation? You being our servant, our greatest servant, you are the servant of the people of this country, and insult our intelligence, insult us, damn our integrity as a Vincentian population to tell us that what you did to us was reasonably required in the interest of public health. That's a lie. You hear
and to add, Dr. Charles, just add the weight and the gravity to his statement to the fact that he is trained in the law, and he knows what procedural impropriety means. He knows what unconstitutionality means. He knows what voids mean. He knows what disproportionality means, and he knows what public interest is, and he knows what is reasonable and fair and just and justifiable. He knows these things.
Dr. Gonsalves, come on, man. You know better. You're not fooling Doris. You're not fooling Mr. Walters. You're not fooling Mr. Williams. You're not fooling Montgomery Cupid. You're not fooling anybody who has the best interest of Vincentians at heart. You're not fooling none of we. You're fooling yourself. This piece of information where you say that your conscience is clear, Dr. Gonsalves, that's an insult to the people who voted you into office.
And to say that his conscience is clear indicates, and I'll take the line from Gerald. Do you really have a conscience?
Well, that's the other thing.
Because no right conscious or conscionable individual would have said what he said, given what the judge ruled, given the conditions under which COVID-19 prevailed in St. Vincent, when St. Vincent and Grenadines actually did very well on the same strata with St. Kitts and Nevis in terms of deaths and recoveries and so on and so forth. It was the statistics are out there. And given the high-handed measures, the disproportionality, the irregularity of the measures, the discriminatory way it was done, targeting specific persons only, disproportionality against the state, and what was done did not affect the entire nation. It was not a broad-based approach. So if it was in the public's interest, why wasn't the whole country shut down? Then he should have shut the whole country down. He should have done what they did in China.
That's a good point. Yeah. And then he went on to justify what he just said. You do it in a balanced way. But the judge say, Dr. Gonsalves, the judge say that you did it unconstitutionally. Your actions are ultra virus. Say what you have done constitutes a breach of natural justice. It contravenes Section 8 of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of our country. It is unlawful, it's procedurally improper and void. But you know what is my problem, Mr. Williams and Mr. Walter Scott? It's how we have not shut down this country as yet and forced Dr. Gonsalves out of office. He and the rest of his administration, because once he speaks, he is speaking on behalf of the entire government. We should force them out of government and shut the country down. No apology this time. A few times ago, I stood up and I hear him apologize for doing this and apologize for doing that. Our populace is not as informed. That is the point. Our populace, they're fearful, you know. I used to think they're fearful. Yes, well, I shouldn't say totally fearful. I used to think, well, boy, yeah. But you know what? There is a system that has really, that's why I mentioned up front of this and that. There's something that pervades. That's something that runs through the entire fabric of our community here. is that we are a forgiving people and forgivable people. But it has come to the point where we can't forgive this for destroying the lives. When I say forgive this, don't think I am hateful when it comes to this, I am saying what Dr. Gonsalves and his administration has done to the rest of my brothers and sisters. Yes, not in the church alone I have brothers and sisters. We are one Vincentian people here. What you have done is to destroy lives, and you cannot justify that anywhere to say that you do it in a balanced way. The judge tells, no, you weren't balanced, you were disproportionate. What do I do then as a government? I let the pandemic
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and as I was just looking at that phrase, Dr. Charles, as you just highlighted it. What do I do as a government? So you realize the tone of his speech, that he stands alone as the government.
That's right.
In his fullness. What I do as a government. So he's the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He's all the parliamentarians, he's all the ministers, he's everything. That's what he just said. What do I do as a government?
What do I do then as a government? Yeah. Dr. Gonsalves, you are not the government. Your son is a minister. I have a good friend who is the Minister of Education, Curtis King, is part of your administration. I have a sister in church. She is part of your administration. I have a brother in church. He's part of your administration. Dr. Gonsalves, you're one man, and you are not the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Then he said, I let the pandemic rip and kill as many people possible, destroy livelihoods, more than some livelihoods were destroyed. That's
so
what
he's saying,
do.
Right, exactly. He has taken full responsibility. He's saying, this is my decision, and I'm standing by it.
And that is the reason why we will call for this country to be shut down, and we will call for him to leave office. And the process of law, we will lock him up because he destroyed people's lives. We will call with the same law that he knows must now judge him. It is wrong, Dr. Gonsalves, what you have done to my brothers and sisters in this country. I cannot keep silent because I could have been in that same position when you destroy my life and the life of my children. You did that to the rank and file of Vincentians, and most of us sit down and kept quiet. And that is wrong, Dr. Gonsalves, what you have done. I stood on the front lines with many teachers last week, and true, you have something like over 500 people were affected. And you didn't have as many. But let me tell you, Dr. Gonsalves, I serve notice to you on behalf of the National Liberation Movement of this country, that it does not take 1 million people to stand up against you. If it takes one, I know I will get the support from the National Liberation Movement, of which I am a part, to stand up against you in this country for what you have done to my brothers and sisters, and you have messed up their lives. You have changed the trajectory of the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. No other Commonwealth Caribbean country has been involved in a process like this. And I call on the international community to look upon you with scorn because you have destroyed the lives of our brothers and sisters in this country. Many people you have brought to be beggars. And that is hurtful, Dr. Gonsalves. That is the reason why, Honorable Dr. Gonsalves, I came out against you during the times of Soufriere, because after Soufriere erupted, it uncovered the cesspit that was part and parcel of the system that I thought was a good system, and I feel really bad, and I'm apologetic to the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that I love so dearly because they supported me and my husband at the time and our children, and now you have destroyed the lives of many of my brothers and sisters here, and I cannot keep silent. I can't, Dr. Gonsalves, because it is wrong. If you and your wife and children were subjected to something like this, then you would have been able to feel the pressure and the pain that people are feeling now. It is wrong, Dr. Gonsalves. And you ought to resign. And through the due process of law, you should be locked up and jailed for destroying people's lives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Talk to me, Doris, because I am happy mad when I see that it is great contempt you hold our black people in. I never knew that I would have come to say this, but it is thoughtful what you have done to reduce people's lives to beggars in this country. It cannot be right, Dr. Gonsalves. And Curtis King, you know that is true. Curtis King and I went to Teachers College together. Who else again in that government that I know personally? All of them. All. Honorable Stevenson, you know that is true. You all stand up against Gonsalves, Dr. Gonsalves. Otherwise, he will destroy your own families. Even your son knows, deep down in his heart, Honorable Camilo Gonsalves, you know that is true. What your father is saying, he took the decision. It is his words here. Stand up against them, otherwise he will destroy not just the rest of us, but he will destroy you all one by one. It cannot be fair. That is not the government I voted for, and many of us in St. Vincent voted for. It is wrong. The opposition, I call upon you to stand up against the might of Ralph Gonsalves and write something. Say something. Because he said, you do it in a balanced way. But the judge say what you have done is unconstitutional and ultra-virus. Meaning that it is outside of the scope of what you are mandated to do as a prime minister of this country. It is wrong. What you have done constitutes a breach of natural justice. Anywhere in the world, anything like this could ever happen to its citizens, and our citizens take it and say, oh God, what will you do me? Citizens of this country, stand up and fight back. I'm not saying that you must pick up guns and bullets, don't get me wrong.
Because Vincent are coward.
Against the might of Ralph Gonsalves.
Vincent are coward of a coward.
Chase him out of Parliament. Sorry, go ahead.
The action of ultra-vires, the court quashing the actions of the state and quashing the actions of the Prime Minister, is basically saying the individual rights of the teachers and police triumph over the rights of over the purported rights of the state, or the assumed rights of the state. So the individuals, they won the government in court, and they won convincingly. People should be rejoicing up to today in the streets of St. Vincent and Grenadines, in Greg's, in Chateaubelair, in Bowley, in Kittels, in Lowman's Windward, in Fancy, all over.
Ballantyne up in the northeast of the country, Sheffland Ballantyne. All them teachers.
Can I come in here? Can I come in here, please?
Those the name the teachers is only them win. You know, they said no. Look, when I interviewed Zita Barnwell, the learned judge, the learned barrister Zita Barnwell. You know what she said to me? She said, Miss, I teach her. I was humbled to know that I taught a child at well, I call her child, I'm much older than her, but she's a learned barrister. Then my friend Jomo Thomas, and others across the region, and you're telling me that Prime Minister would come back here on API and say that his conscience is clear? Dog, eat your conscience.
That's disrespectful to the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines. That means he's championing the people. And he's disregard for the feelings. Could you imagine that? For the feelings and hurt of teachers who didn't have a salary for 2 years, almost 2 years, who couldn't provide for their children.
No, man. No, Brother Gonsalves.
While you go home, while he went home with his fat salary and he's saying his conscience is clear.
No, we need to baptize you. No, we need to take you to the Lord in prayer again. Because this is wrong what you have done We need to run him
And,
out of Parliament.
yes,
Run him
and
out of Parliament. That is the thing. And how do you do that, my people? Vote him out of office. Take him to
Dr.
court.
Dr. Charles, we can't talk about voting out, because if we talk about voting out, we're talking about we're going to wait until the next political term close to end. So
No.
I think let us amplify the whole thing of getting this, because what he's done as well,
Yes.
he's trying to claim that the people who took the vaccine, which a lot of them have been coerced into taking the vaccine, are the real heroes. And despite of the High Court ruling, he is still urging teachers to reapply, despite that there's a ruling they should be reinstated.
That's
So
right. That's right.
I've also said, and I'm going to say it again without apology, we need to understand Ralph Gonsalves, Dr. Gonsalves. Let me give him the respect. He is a descendant of the enslaved people who were taken to the Caribbean forcefully. And if you look at the way how he treats the citizens of St. Vincent, it's almost a replica of our ancestors who were forcefully taken out of Africa and were used for free labor. And there's a direct correlation with the manner in which we treat our people. And I always say I don't expect I would have actually have to make this reference to Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. But I've seen, as they say, within the goat, they're in the kiddie. The Europeans didn't have no respect for Africans. And he's a descendant of Europeans. And his attitude reminds me of our ancestors who were enslaved the same. And if you look at it still to date, because there's no political leader who can actually run a country effectively 100%. But what makes a real leader is when you make a mistake, you actually genuinely, not just saying you apologize, but the fact that he's saying his conscience is clear and now asking our people to reapply for the job, it's a total disrespect. So I'm just calling on just with yourself and Brother Walters and all the other nationals who are actually moving in solidarity. Let us not only get this man arrested, all those senior civil servants who are actually aligned with Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, that not only getting this administration out of power, because they're not leading, it's just more power grabbing, is that we set a precedent that accountability will be the order of the day in St. Vincent and the Grenadines going forward. Because that will actually make our civil servants and senior leaders to understand that they are not immune to any legal scrutiny. So, yeah.
The integrity legislation that really and truly should have given our actions some bite is not enacted. That's one. I do not know if an integrity commission has ever been properly set up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because the laws are of such that they are lax when it comes to integrity legislation for persons like Dr. Ralph Gonsalves and others in public office. So, my issue is this, that there is, quote unquote, a pause on the execution of the order that was given, an assumed pause. Now, I was told otherwise, that there isn't a pause, but rather the minister, the honorable minister, can be held in contempt. Now, which comes first, the chicken or the eggs, I haven't done procedural matters relating to the court, yeah? So that is another matter for us to discuss. But look at Section 3. No declaration is made that Section 43B of the Public Health Act, insofar as it grants power to the minister to declare a public health emergency, is inconsistent with Section 17 of our Constitution, or is null and void. And what hurts me is to see Honorable Prime Minister comes back here and to say that he has done what he did, justifying what he has done. He said he did it in a balanced way. And the judges say, no, it was not balanced. It was against the Constitution, and therefore you have destroyed lives and you should pay. Give back the people their jobs. Give them back their jobs. You see, approximately 137 of the over 2,000 teachers are unvaccinated and or lost their case on religious or medical grounds for vaccine exemption. Now, I have an issue with some religious bodies and the way they went about this mandate. But we are dealing here with the political side of things in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He said the government has repeatedly called on unvaccinated teachers to reapply for their positions within the system with benefits intact. That is hogwash. That is foolishness, because the order states, and no teacher can do that. Why? The order says the defendant shall pay to the claimant's costs pursuant to Rule 56.1.13 of the CPR to the assessed. If not agreed, the claimants are required to file application for assessment of costs within 45 days to date, up to on or before the 28th of April 2023. And he went on to talk. The point I am making is that you cannot reapply for a job that
you never lost in the first place.
That you never lost in the first place. Someone called my home and they said it to me. If they were listening to that conversation, they would know who the person is. Honorable Prime Minister called that person's relatives to put pressure on them to come back, to just reapply. And then he said, oh, the court will deal with the rest of the matter. When the person said, listen to me, I am not stupid, you know, and explained that they have been in the service for more than 30 years. They cannot reapply for something that they never left in the first place. Honorable Prime Minister, you need to leave office. We will have to run you out of government. We will have to do that, Honorable Prime Minister, because you are wrong. The court say you're wrong. You're stone wrong. As we would say, you're dead wrong.
And
Honorable Prime Minister, and that's an insult for people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is an insult. No, man. No.
So you realize the spin. You realize the spin in his statement. So he's turning the judgment and he's twisting it, and he's calling the persons who were vaccinated the heroes, and then he made reference to the 137 teachers who are unvaccinated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
and he's saying that they lose their case or lost their case on grounds of religious and medical reasons. But that is not what the recent case against the state was about.
That's correct. That's correct. That is what I don't like about Dr. Gonzalez.
And that has been disingenuous.
I could stand up and tell you that. If I see you right up home up front of it, and me not send message you, then me could come and tell you that, Dr. Gonzalez. You're wrong. You're wrong, Dr. Gonzalez.
Disingenuous and a lie and deceptive.
Of course it is.
And it's like treason. It's like high treason.
Of course. Of course, you damage our people.
I like that word, you know. I like that word, treason. But you see what happened to our people, our national, is that we only engage in politics pre-election and post-election. After that, we gone back to sleep. And this is exactly one of the things that is affecting us, because it's sad to see that we have a decision of this magnitude. And there's still, I mean, I'm not literally based home, but there still seems to be a misinformed nation as to what had really taken place, because we should, I mean, there's a song that Bob Marley said, let's chase them crazy bald head out of tongue, not literally, but we are talking about legally. And I do agree that we need to shut this country down, because PM Gonsalves should be arrested, and I will continue to call this. He should be arrested, and his administration, not him only, because I can't understand, because as a leader, you should have your advisors. And it's only to see that, you know, when you look at the leaders that we have, these are your fellow human beings, and you're telling me that
Absolutely.
you're going to support a regime like this to oppress your people to the state of putting them out of a job, create a sense of poverty. You have actually destroyed the mental capacity of some of our people. There are people who are literally dead. And what is shocking, what I've read about this whole so-called pandemic. Now, these companies who have actually advocated or manufactured these vaccines, they have actually been granted indemnification. It's a big fancy word. It's basically saying, I ain't responsible for anything happen to you. So how could we have a leader who is going to accept this vaccine which hasn't been clinically approved? It hasn't been clinically approved. And yet you're telling me that you have a leader who is going to coerce or advocate or mandate a vaccine on our people that is not clinically approved, and yet the producers of the vaccine are not going to be held accountable for any vaccine damage, because there is now information coming to light. We are having neurological damage. We are having we call it seizures, heart attack, and the list goes on. And we need to also understand, because even though we have in a hurricane and it's attacking St. Vincent from the south, we have to prepare ourselves. So when we talk about pandemic, how many people have died in St. Vincent for the Prime Minister and his administration to declare a health emergency? I mean, you can't just throw words around. How many deaths we should have actually have for we to declare St. Vincent a health emergency? And these are the questions we need to ask. You can't just toss around words and say health emergency and think that these big words that we are going to just accept health emergency. What is the death toll for the state for the Prime Minister to declare that we were actually going through a health emergency? And these are the things we need to, and we need to have data as to what are the adverse effects for those people who have actually lost life. And I've known of people now who have actually suffering from what do you call it? I just used the word a while ago. It's more like fits. I've just used the word.
Trauma.
No, it's just like you're just fidgeting all the time at short intervals. Seizure, yeah. So these are the things we need to have, because this thing is serious. This is very serious, and we need to make sure, because as Brother Walter said, the PM, the leader that we have, he's a lawyer by profession. I don't expect him to know the law in its entirety, but he's aware of his action. And to see the disrespect that he's trying to say, his conscience is clear. Honestly, you don't have a conscience.
We pause for a commercial pause just to remind us that we come to you live and direct with the compliments of BayhillNews.net. www.BayhillNews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. The number to call us is 1-784-529-8518, or text us at 1-784-491-3923, or write to us at beldynation@gmail.com.
Can I come in here,
Also,
please?
St. Vincent and Grenadines' finest wines produced by Dave Roots. And for more information, please call 1-784-593-1564. I will take in now some comments. Okay. He said, thank you, Dr. Charles, for your voice. Speak about my sister. Thank you, listener. He said, let guests speak. Call out all Vincentians. Let us hit the road. Put our political differences aside and fight for our rights. Watch how we fight against out of government. We Vincentians put him there. We can't wait until 2025. No, too long, too much pressure. I'm not saying about thank you, listener.
Can I come in here, please? Can I come in here, please?
I'm talking about forcing his hands, get him out of office, because he has betrayed our people. He has destroyed lives. Eh? And he has
Strong.
is attempting to open a floodgate, the floodgate on our constitutional rights and freedoms. Now,
Yes,
when you
champion on
champion
the
upon
law.
the Constitution, I am saying to us as Christians as well, if we stand still and say nothing and just keep our mouths shut, this is the beginning of all hell and mayhem in this country of ours. But the judge has put her foot down and said that what he has done is wrong, unconstitutional, against natural justice and the natural things. And you're telling me that Prime Minister turn around and say his conscience is clear? Dog eat your conscience, Prime Minister. Tell it. Dog eat your conscience. No, man.
And as you just to interject, Dr. Charles, as you mentioned the Christians, I just want to quote from Solomon. Solomon said that because sentence against an evil matter is not executed speedily, the heart of the sons of men are fully set in them to do evil.
How I could go church with my big hat and my big bag and my nice shoes that my daughter-in-law send give me, and my cousin them send 2 dresses for me and saying, how I go sit down next to my brothers and sisters and them and just keep quiet on this matter? And to see that them sit down over there because they didn't vote for this particular administration. That all I could do is just shake their hand and say, all right, okay, sister, all the very best. It is not fair. It is against natural justice and order. It is against the Christian's conscience to sit down. If Dr. Gonsalves said that his conscience is clear, brothers and sisters, our consciences cannot be clear when we see our other brothers and sisters suffer the way they do and don't say anything. That is the point I am making. You cannot sit quietly by and say, okay, it is all right for Dr. Gonsalves and his administration to do these things for us. Even after the judges say that what he has done is wrong, he can't twist it around and fool anybody. No, not even the school child who know their junior one. Well, not junior, where does call them now? Grade 1 and grade 2. You cannot fool these children. And much as you fool big people, come on, civil servants, you have your role to do. You have your part to play. I talked to you all some time ago. I talked to us because I was once a civil servant. And I'm saying, stand up. Stand up on behalf of your fellow citizens. Stand up on behalf of your fellow comrades. Stand up on behalf of your neighbors and friends against the might of Dr. Gonsalves. Because remember, now he's taking blame for everything. He say, he say, is a one-man show then. So people like my friend Curtis Kane and others, if I as a government would have taken that position. That's wrong.
He didn't say my government, you know, he said I as the government. Definite article. Him standing in his composite whole self.
Yes, first person singular. He, I. Yes, man. I take the decision and I did that. I as a government. You are not the government, Dr. Gonsalves. You are not the government.
That sounded like the voice of a madman. A delusional person.
I'm telling you that. I am wondering now, well, what is happening? No, we will have to ask him to leave, and if he's not going to leave, we take him to court and we run him out of office because it is wrong, Dr. Gonsalves, what you are doing. And there are many other things that you have done wrong, and you know it, Dr. Gonsalves. I was an officer who stand up for you, but I have lost respect, Dr. Gonsalves. I have, and somebody needs to tell you that. I know you're recording me, officers. Let him know what I have said. Play it back to him and tell him, because officers, you two who are recording me, know of instances where we have lost respect for our government, for our minister, who is supposed to be, may I say that, okay, he's supposed to be a righteous person, but must recognize that he has erred. And then if a judge rule against you, oh God, come on now, Dr. Gonsalves. Give back the people their jobs. You have taken their jobs from them. You have robbed them of their livelihood. And the national pause is supposed to pay all of us because we pay taxes. And you cannot continue to do that. You will have to leave. Dr. Gonzalez, you'll have to leave office. There's no two ways about it. You will have to leave office. You have to leave office. And everything, I will dedicate my life to waking up them who sleeping under coconut shed, them who they under bamboo up yonder, them who go in the mountain. I will wake up every single Vincentian to the consciousness of what they're supposed to be doing as citizens of this country. Dr. Gonsalves, no, you can't do that. That's ridiculous, against natural order, against justice of all kind that you want, and you turn around and say a conscience is clear. I call upon the international community to condemn you as well for what you have done. That is wrong. I call upon every Vincentian to get up and say, no, why should he treat our brothers and sisters like that? Because Vincentians, those of you who have your big cars and houses, nobody grudge you for that. You work for it. Nobody should grudge you for that because you work for it. You work for that. But the point I am making is this. You must have a little conscience, feel for those brothers and sisters of us here in St. Vincent, because we are one people, Yeah, the same way they feel hungry sometimes is the same way Doris feel hungry. It's the same way Mary feel hungry. It's the same way somebody can't pay the rent. It's the same way. I remember you are not always in that position. So I am saying, come on, man. Come on. Let us do it right. Let us do it right. Yes, go ahead, please.
I'd just like to drill down some more into the final statement made by Dr. Gonzalez. He said the Prime Minister again urged teachers to reapply to enter the service, noting that unvaccinated teachers can now return, and his reason is simply because the threat has receded.
Oh, yeah?
So let's look at this. He's saying that they must reapply. Okay, and the good gentleman knows in contract law that if I enter into a contract,
to me,
and the terms of the contract are changed or varied, the legal word is variation of the contractual terms, then it must not be unilateral, meaning that one party alone cannot vary those terms. Otherwise, those terms are void.
True.
And inapplicable, and they don't carry any force of law. So the varying terms or the variation must be equally agreed upon, and there must be consensus between the offerer and the offeree, the contractor and the contractee, both parties in the agreement. So the law, the COVID-19 vaccination laws or regulations, orders, varied, that's what he's saying, varied the contract of employment between the state and the teachers, or changed it and says, okay, if you don't take this vaccine, you have actually demitted your post. That is what in effect it says. And the judge said no, because the teachers did not agree to it. You cannot impose a clause in an agreement on me and force me to accept it when I wasn't party to it, and I refused to accept it when that clause was not even in the initial agreement. You can't do that. It's against natural justice, rules of natural justice, and unfairness, against equity. I mean, these are fundamental things that he will have learned in law school.
Of course.
And these are things that he knows. So he's now saying for the teachers, urging the teachers to reapply. How can they reapply when the contract, the terms of the contract were never varied or changed according to the court and according to the teacher themselves? I never changed the terms of my agreement. So when I reapply, I'm actually constructively dismissing myself.
So unilateral of an action or a decision that was performed by or affecting only one person, a group, or or a country involved in a situation without the agreement of another or the others. It also went on to say what relating to or affecting only one side of an organ or the body or another structure. I was actually pulling out a bit there when it comes to unilateral contracts as you were
Right,
speaking.
right.
You know,
Excellent.
so it's done on the take by one person or a party. So Prime Minister, you vary the thing one way, and now you're turning around, putting it so that grandmother in the back room now could understand what we're saying.
Yeah.
So
So
he's gone. Yes, go ahead. Get it
it's
out.
like saying, as we hear, you want to have your cake and eat it.
Yes.
You want to have both sides. You want to have the fish head, and you want to have the tail at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to have the center. And so let's say now the teachers. He's now asking the teachers to reapply. So let's say a teacher worked for 35 years, taught for 35 years as a teacher.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to reapply. On what terms am I going to reapply on? Yeah. Would I be reapplying as, would I be forgetting those 35 years of teaching? Or my benefits, my pension, everything gone to the wind?
No, well, remember he said when you reapply, you're getting back your benefits. What nonsense story is that? You never really left, but now you're reapplying on what? Reapplying where and from what point would you get your benefits? Because if you reapply, as far as I know, your first contract is done, right?
Precisely.
And you get nothing there. So now you're reapplying. So your benefits will only count from the time that you reapply and your 30, how many years that you would have had service. That's it. But that's a non-stop topic.
And based on the fact that I dismiss myself from my job, I lose my benefits.
Of course.
You didn't. The state. What he's saying is that the state did not fire them. They walked off their job. They refused to show up to work, so you lose your benefits.
And naturally, you will get full benefits when you reapply, you know, because you go reapply. No, you don't spend 35 years or 40 years in the system. You're now reapplying from the 29th of March 2023, and you have one more year to go before you finish. Before you reach retirement age. Then you know it's only that 1 year you're getting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what he's saying is illogical. It's nonsensical. It doesn't make sense. And he's mama guying the people. He's hoodie winking the people.
Oh my God! Look, I understand that someone was trying to get on. Can you call us again, please? Somebody was trying to get on. I don't know if it's from office.
Just wanted to add to Gerald.
Yeah, I just want to share something.
Yes.
Which was part of the current regime campaign strategy when NDP were in power. And there was a placard that read, "Self-interest, greed, hypocrisy, and contempt for the people are the cornerstone of NDP regime. One-man rule has ruined St. Vincent economy, national debt, no money for compulsory education. NDP regime should seek a new mandate. Time for a new political order to focus on equity, education, employment, creation, accountability, and propelling St. Vincent economy." So aren't we actually having a replica of our one-man rule again? So the same thing he was advocating that the NDP government was doing, now look at 4 decades after, this administration have committed political suicide. And I think it's even more deadly because we have a high court ruling. And it's so sad that our nation is not even being engaged. So just to show you, we have to be mindful, because if this regime have to continue to rule this country after the term, if they get that far, I think that's the time this country would actually be in a state of emergency, because I was reading an article yesterday that St. Vincent is actually considered the top 10 country that is in debt to the IMF. St. Vincent is part of that. Before, St. Vincent was one of the countries that you seldom heard in the Caribbean, not because that we didn't exist. If you are a cricketer and you follow cricket, because we are always known to have an excellent one-day host for the West Indies competition. But unless you're really into cricket, St. Vincent was one of those countries that you seldom heard about. But when you get to know about St. Vincent, you can't forget it because it has so much lush vegetation and natural beauty and hospitable people as well. And when I say St. Vincent, sorry for those in the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And just to look at after 4 terms in office, the same man who was advocating for accountability and one-man rule, where are we now?
Gerald.
And I'm really ringing the bell with you, Dr. Charles.
Gerald.
We need to shut this country down. We
Gerald.
need to get our people mobilized.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, you are observed, they said too late. This observation, I see this since 2015.
Not hearing properly though.
We're not
It's a
hearing
bit low.
properly.
You're not hearing properly? You're not hearing properly?
Yeah, it's a bit low.
I said this thing happened since 2015. So what we're hearing now, what we're getting now is just this, small fire of what happened since 2015.
It's really low.
The volume is quite low. Can you speak a little louder, please? Hello? Yeah, you said something about 2015.
Yes, I was saying this happening since 2015. Since 2015 this happening. Do you hear now?
What happened in in 2015?
Since 2015 we see the one man is rule. He ruled by himself since 2015. We don't get the smoke. 'Cause every judgment that make against him, he try to wiggle himself out.
Okay. Yeah, I think, yes. Go ahead. So since 2015, and every judgment that has been made in the court has not been carried out by him. Is that it?
Yeah, yes, that's what I'm saying. Look at the Marcus de Freitas case and the other cases that was won against him. We do. Up to now, payment have not made. He tried to find himself out.
Okay. Indeed. Yes, I think that point was made previously, and yes, we welcome that. Yes, thank you very much for those comments. And Mr. Are you finished? Please? Are you finished?
Yes, but I still find, Dr. Charles, I still don't understand what is really going on in St. Vincent, that to see that there are people who have lost their lives through this vaccine mandate. There are people who have lost their job, who have slipped into, even lost their property. I mean, how is it that we are so quiet? I mean, we have a ruling like this in St. Vincent. Where are Vincentians? Why are we so quiet? Is it, and as you said, we need to put away this party politics, because I can't understand how is it that PM Gonsalves and his administration could be sitting sitting comfortably with this kind of ruling. I still don't understand what's going on in St. Vincent. How can we really start to mobilize this country in a way of protest to tell this administration they have committed political suicide, they have disrespected the rule of law, and not only that, you have even maneuvered, the security system, which is our police force, into the same thing, because we had senior police officers who are not medical experts, who have actually advocating in terms of promoting that we should take this medicine. So how did he get to this stage that even cohorts, even our law abiders, us who should be maintaining rulership or law in St. Vincent and Grenadines, have them, because I've actually, I don't want to call them, they know who they are, who have actually supported and actually calling out. the fellow citizens and police officer to take a vaccine that has been clinically approved. And then the thing is that now nobody wants to actually take any responsibility for the damages that citizens, and as Brother Walter said, this is not an issue of St. Vincent and Grenadines. We have replica of it globally. So why are Vincentians so quiet? I don't understand.
I can't give a one-off answer, and I believe it is a complex situation because we, the citizens of this country, make it as complex as it is. We have had an opportunity to change a former administration. I worked under that former administration. Lots of stuff happened. And here was the savior, so to speak, quote unquote, that came on board. And we were duped into thinking, and I said duped because as I sit and I reflect, I recognize that what Dr. Gonsalves and his administration, well, I should take out the part of the administration because he has now accepted full responsibility. I, as a government, has done is to destroy the lives of our brothers and sisters here in St. Vincent. That the full impact of that has not translated as it should have, because you have segments of the society that has been affected. You also have a new structure of society that has emerged, where those who were at the bottom of the ladder, so to speak, in terms of struggling to make ends meet, because of politics, this is my view, and I may be wrong, but because of politics, they have now earned, upward mobility, able to get a car, access to a loan, they build a house, and they recognize, well, if it was under the former administration, this could not have happened. This is what I am thinking that is happening. And as a result, there is this boy, even though they're bad, even though things gone wrong, it ain't affect me directly. But yeah, I feel for Janie and them. I feel for Mary and them. But that's as far as it goes. Yeah, I sympathize with them. But if they did vote like me, this would not happen. And what we have seen is voting along political partisan lines. So you vote so that you're able to get something, because a vote, as we were taught, own your party. When you own your party, loyal to the party would give you access to whatever. But it is ought not to be that way. As we continue to study and understand how society evolves and so on, we recognize that it is the resources of the country that are the resources of the country. So whether or not you vote yellow or green, we should recognize that those political office that we hold, if this thing is to come right, if we have to recalibrate society, as we know, it is, we will have integrity legislation, we would have persons signing on to say, for public officers especially, you'll sign on to say, well, look, I own one house before I get into these parties. And we're not saying that you can't use your money that they give you from the national pot to advance whatever you want to advance. But you shouldn't have a minister of government lobbying or vying for piece of the cake, piece of the pie. When, let's say, an investor comes here, all of a sudden a minister would say, boy, it's best me build something else so that me could enrich myself as a result of the investor coming. But rather, if the investor is going to invest within, let's say, the tourism sector, or agriculture sector, or education sector, that investor should be given that opportunity so to do. But you have all kind of crisscrossing happening. So, and then you have favors being given or taken. And that is where our society is divided along partisan lines. And people are not seeing too clearly where the lines are drawn, or they are seeing as clear as their eyes would have them see. and say, oh, that good for you. You are nurse 25 years ago and you do nursing, so that is your story. It may affect me. That cannot be right, because when we understand that we are one Vincentian people here, largely of African descent, and these ideals that the president of Suriname would have spoken about and so on, Africa, CARICOM, crossing the oceans, opportunities and so on, our view of development of ourselves as a nation state has been limited because partisan politics divided us to the point where we are blinded by those blinkers. We put on blinkers and you're blinded by that. We've got to feel again. We've got to empathize again with one another and know for sure that we are one people here. You know, in the church community, you say brother and sister. In the wider community, we are also brothers and sisters. You know, when Sheffler and Valentine cry up in the north of the country, I should feel it down here to say, oh Lord, why what your government do Sheffler, and he now have to sell banana and all kind of thing in order to make a living. He had to stop, but and he was this educator out at technical college. And when somebody in North Lee would again cry, say, oh Lord, watch my brother down the crying, boy, I feel for him, and be able to lend a helping hand. How many of us who have had the opportunity to lend a hand, really lend a hand? I know some of us did. But the rank and file of those who were part of the political elite, I get cussed out big time. You know, I was going up with my bell, it's my father bell, going up with my bell, they ringing and so on, and cuss out, Paris, go home, and all kind of story. I mean, come on. We are one people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and if something is wrong, we should say that it is wrong. I'm not advocating violence, but I am saying it is time for this administration to go, and I am calling on Vincentians to call an election. I'm calling on the opposition to say to the House that we have a no confidence vote in the current administration. When I say run out Ralph Gonsalves out of Parliament, I am not saying take stick and broom and run him out in terms of a legitimate vote to vote him out, and not just he, but the administration that supports him in this effort where they have destroyed the lives of honest, hardworking fellow Vincentians of ours. It is wrong.
What about, Dr. Charles? What about actually we campaign to have a petition to hold a referendum to actually remove this administration from power? Because I know you wouldn't want to have a referendum per se. I stand guided by our legal colleague there, Mr. Walters, but I understand what you're saying to at least there's a process, and I mean the process is political punishment, and that is to get him out of office, to get the current administration out of office, because they're not serving the needs of our people. And that is what I'm going to lobby for. Another thing that I've said it so many times, we have committed political suicide before we even had this ruling, before we even have the volcanic eruption, before we even have COVID. Because I couldn't understand how we allow father and son to run this country. And when I say run the country, father control security, he's also head of parliament, and son control the purse, which is finance. And what a country, the backbone of the country is finance and security, because we need security to control our borders and to maintain law and order. And we need the finance to manage the country. So basically, this country is run by the Gonsalves.
While you may look at it that way, and yes, we have other government ministers, and we may not hear them as.
I'm not saying the others are not involved. I'm not saying they're not important, but I'm talking about the actually very critical position that is really the cornerstone of the country. I'm not disregarding the agriculture minister and everything, but you're talking about you need security. Every country's security is paramount, and every country is financially managed. So when you have those two key positions actually being maneuvered by the Gonsalves family, That is political suicide we have committed right before our eyes. So I'm not really surprised with what is going on in St. Vincent. But at the end of the day, as either you or Brother Walters have mentioned that, yes, we might be a descendants of the African people, but at least the revolution that had taken place that allow us to go to school, because during the enslavement, being literate was illegal. And not to say we were illiterate, because Africa was the place of learning. So when people talk about Africa, we talk about Africa post-slavery. But pre-slavery, Africa was the school of learning. That's where everybody used to go to learn to get their wealth. So this is where we have such a rich culture, and it's something that we need to understand, that Africa is not a place of poverty. Africa was the place of learning. Africa was the place. It was the Europe, the Asia, where everybody was heading for a better life. So how did we get to this position? And don't be fooled, St. Vincent, God forbid. The rate at which we are going, we could be actually heading in that position, because you're telling me our people are just so dumb, and that despite of this big landmark case, that we just only have a few handful of people who are trying to say, well, this is wrong. Something is really wrong.
Okay, so here's a comment. Just to remind us before this comment that we are coming to you live and direct from the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines here in the Caribbean. We are 150 square miles, and we are like a dot on the map on the globe, so to speak, but nonetheless we have a voice, and we are advocating for change in the direction where our country can be seen as one of the best in the Caribbean. We have a tagline within the tourism industry said, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the Caribbean that you are looking for. And if it is that Caribbean we are looking for, we, the voice of the National Liberation Movement, a movement with a political arm, is saying that there were injustices that were done to fellow Vincentians, and we are calling on the government to resign. And we are also saying that if they can't resign, won't resign, not that they can't, if they won't resign, that I use the word run them out of office, meaning this, that we must vote them out of office and put in place, establish a cadre of Vincentians that are well in tune with local, regional, and international developments, and put our country on a path towards that, the St. Vincent, this is the Caribbean that you are looking for. Life here is difficult, very challenging for a number of civil servants and teachers and nurses and so on. And because of the politics of the day, a number of our people turn a blind eye to those who are suffering, but not us. In the National Liberation Movement, a movement with a political arm. That's what we are advocating for, just and fair treatment of our fellow Vincentians. I am seeing a comment here. It said the gentleman was saying that Ralph was running the one-man show since 2015. He also said that every case that has been brought against Ralph has not stick, as he always overruled. Okay, the issue is that there is going to be systemic change. This is not about one person. This is about the change in the way we do things, and it is going to take a little time to, remind our fellow Vincentians that this is not the way we do development, not in this century or any other century. And we here at the National Liberation Movement, a movement with a political arm, will be coming to us people, to us, the rest of us here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and to help us to remind us, that this is not the way we treat our own. We cannot be at home treating people bad, treating fellow Vincentians bad, and then you go out into the regional and international community and say how good you are. That's not right. Geothermal, millions of dollars unaccounted for. Investment in several infrastructural developments and areas and organizations and companies unaccounted for. Waste, you know what I mean? Just a whole heap of stuff not going right. And we are coming together, have come together for the past year, over a year, and we have been talking, and people are listening to what we are saying. I want to serve notice to this current administration that their days are numbered in terms of service to this country, because you, the current administration has hurt our people. The court order that we were reviewing this evening is testimony to this fact. We now have a signal that I'm reliably informed that the signal has gone through into our signal of appeal, where I'm not sure what legs that this appeal will have, but nonetheless, a quote-unquote pause has been placed on the execution of the court order. I'm subject to correction on that. I'm told about the contempt, that an apparent contempt exists, not just for this, but several other orders. And I'm saying, isn't there a mechanism to move the hands of the Prime Minister, who, as the listener has said, reiterating what the gentleman has said online, that every case that has been brought against the current leader has not stick, meaning he has not repaid what should have been repaid, nor honored the orders that the court handed down. And one is wondering as to who the judges were, and why is it that there is a weak infrastructure of compelling a particular officer, be it the head of government or else, to actually comply with the order of the court. What is it saying about our systems in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? How can we change them? And can we actually change? Where is the will of the people? The political will, the social will, the whatever else will that we have, where is that? And I think that is where, Mr. Williams, you were saying that you cannot understand why is it that our folks have not been able to gel, to come together, to trust one another enough to link up, to yoke up with one another to the point of saying, okay, we are going to do this, and together let us stand. I am saying, Vincentians, do not be afraid of anyone. You have a right to be heard. You are just like me or anybody else. Because if I have done wrong, I know that you're going to carry me court. And I am saying every man here in St. Vincent, every boy, every girl is equal at the foot of the law. And what has been done to our fellow Vincentians is wrong. And that is where I stand. And I will continue to stand in solidarity with others who are calling for the resignation of this current administration, led by Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, who clearly, in his words, and the interview with API, have demonstrated utter disgust, utter contempt for our people. He does not like us. Vincentians, Dr. Gonsalves, do not like us by virtue of what he has said in that API interview. And I am asking Dr. Gonsalves to challenge me to say, Doris, I love the Vincentian people, and what I say in the API ruling, in the API interview, should not be interpreted as being bad. Dr. Gonsalves, I'm challenging you, because you don't like us. If you did like us, you would not treat us so, because we voted for you, and this is the way you turn around and treat us. That is wrong on every angle. Yes, Mr. Williams, we have something like, oh, okay, we're just about closing off it again. One last word from any one of you, please.
I do, Mr. Walters, because I spoke last. So I think it'd be right for him to come in now and close up.
I'm actually lost of words. I'm just thinking about countries like Antigua, countries like St. Kitts and Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados. If what happened in St. Vincent had taken place in any of those countries. I mean, it would have been on radio stations, all the radio stations, they have been talking about it every day. There have been demonstrations. So I'm appealing to our Vincentian folks. I'm appealing to you as a citizen in your born land to wake up from your sleep.
Yes.
Do not be like, I was going to use an expression, but I changed my mind. I don't want to say it. But do not be like someone who cannot speak. Do not be muted. You have not left your mouth in your mama. As you know, song. I admit that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. The power lies within each of us to make the change that is necessary for the betterment of ourselves and our country. I'm not the only one that is feeling pressure. Micah chapter 6 and verse 8 says this: He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. Good evening, everyone. Until next time. Goodbye.
Good evening.